Hi everyone, I hope this finds you well wherever you are in the world. I wanted to take a moment to just jump in with a quick Q&A session, as you know I often like to do. I recently got a great message from an educator, and it was actually kind of a follow-up to one of these videos I've made in the past. And many of you know, if we've worked together, that often when talking about agency, I'll lift up how agency is not something we give students, right? It's something we all have. It's more about what can we do as educators to nurture agency, to help students exercise their agency. And so in that vein, this wonderful educator reached out and said, hey, you know, I love everything you shared about agency. However, as I'm getting ready to start a new school year, I'm wondering just what's a practical way to get started on this? Like, how do I, in a practical sense, start nurturing the practice of decision making? Because we know agency is so much about being decision makers. Those of you who are in the IB, you know, will often say that agency is voice, choice, and ownership. And we don't want to forget that ownership piece, right? What does that really look like? What does that really mean? Well, we know it means making decisions and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. That what research tells us is at its heart, agency is about making sound judgment with confident action. So if we want that for students of all ages and all contexts, then we know we need to give them lots of practice making decisions. And so a tip I want to give today from that practical standpoint is to think about your words. Many of you know I'll say again and again, words matter. They make a difference. And so when we think about creating an ecology with students, right? Like, what kind of space is this? What is it like to live and learn here in this space? So much depends on the language we use. And so one tip I want to give is to think about the questions you ask students. If we want to nurture agency, we need to ask questions in a way that put the agency on the students, so to speak. Like, we want the ownership, the autonomy, the decision-making to be put on them so that they get that practice and that exercise, just like exercising a muscle, right? So one thing you can do is use what we often call positive presuppositions. You want to positively presume that kids can make decisions and that kids are doing deep thinking, because they can and they are. And so we want to lift that up. So a few examples of this idea of positive presuppositions would be like, for example, if you're talking with a student, instead of saying, do you have a plan for what you'll do next? You would just say, what's your plan, right? You're just going to positively presume that, of course, they have a plan. Or instead of saying, did this change the way you think? You could say, how did this change the way you think? Right? That positive presupposition. Or instead of, is there a strategy you could try? You could say, what strategy will you try next? Right? And what you'll notice is that this automatically puts students in a place where they can't just say yes or no, or I don't know, right? It's more this vibe of, okay, you see me as a person. First of all, you see me as a person, that's important. And then you see me as the kind of person who makes decisions, who is thinking, who is capable. That makes a huge, huge, significant impact. It is not just fluff. It's research informed, the impact that has on the learner and on the learning. And then students will rise to the occasion again and again and again, and lift up so many things you and I would have never known otherwise. So it has kind of a double benefit, if not more, and that you're helping students exercise their agency, their decision making, their ownership. And you're also getting so much more intel, authentic assessment for learning, monitoring what students are saying and not saying yet so that you can be responsive, right? So this idea of positive presuppositions, another way to think about this is instead of asking funnel questions, can you ask more just like focus questions? So those examples I gave, they're helping students focus on strategies or plans or mind changes, but without funneling them to one specific answer, right? Too often we are, without meaning to, trying to what we might call lead the witness, and we want to try to avoid that, right? So a thought to leave you with would be anytime you're talking with a student, a group of students, a whole class of students, to kind of keep in mind, I kind of often have my inner voice saying to me when I'm in a room with children or teens, I remind myself, Tanya, you're not trying to get them to an answer. And you're certainly not trying to get them to the answer you think is right. It's more that you're trying to keep them thinking. So instead of thinking, can I get them to an answer? It's, can I keep them thinking? Can I keep them learning? Because that's what it's about, right? It's more about what they say back to these focus questions, these positive presuppositions that keep them thinking and help them exercise their agency. So I hope that sparks some ideas. I'd love to hear more questions that are on all of your minds, and wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a great day, a great week, and hopefully we get to see each other again soon. Bye for now.